This week on the Watson Watch, we're coming from Springfield, and we're talking to one of the newest members of the House, and that is Dwight Kay from Glen Carbon. Dwight comes to us with 40 years of business experience. He runs a large corporation that they work in multi-states, and one of the issues that are challenging the state and challenging us in Springfield is workman's comp reform. And so I brought in Dwight. He is our point man and our expert, and to see if you could tell us, give the folks an overview and what do we need to do? Where do we need to go to be successful?
Well, it's a good question, Jim. The state of Illinois has not been business friendly, and there's several ways, but the issue of workers' compensation and the impact it has on business is great. When you look, comparatively speaking, at the states that surround Illinois, they're all far more aggressive in their attempts to reform workers' compensation than Illinois is. And that's not to say that they're unfair. That's just to say that they recognize that their system was out of control. They took steps to improve it. And consequently, what that has done is to suggest to businesses like mine that there may be a better place to be than the state of Illinois.
What does Indiana do that Illinois doesn't do, for example?
Let me take Missouri if I can.
Okay, Missouri's perfect.
I'm more familiar with Missouri because they recently enacted a reform that we needed to take on here in Illinois, and that has to do with principal cause or causation. And basically what that does in Missouri, it says that the injury must be directly related to the work being performed on the job and nothing else. Since that's happened, Missouri has reduced their injury rates by 50%. And that says to me that the definition in and of itself is critically important to what we do in Illinois. And if we don't make those changes, we're going to have a problem retaining businesses.
And the resistance that you see coming to adding principal cause, primary cause, is going to come from the folks that benefit from the system as it is now, right?
Well, absolutely. I think anytime you have an administrative system and you don't have a clearly defined definition of cause, and ours is not, quite frankly, then that leaves it subjectively up to an arbitrator. And an arbitrator is really not a judge. He's just the administrative finder of fact, which is different than a judge. So we need to take the subjective out. We need to make it more objective, very clear that everything that we consider to be an on-the-job, work-related injury is related to the task at hand and nothing more, nothing less.
You operate across several states. What are the cost comparisons?
I will just take the states around us, Indiana, Wisconsin. Let's jump down maybe to Tennessee, Kentucky, and swing back up to Indiana, Missouri in there likewise. All of these states have made some sort of reform. So the cost variable difference to us in these states is anywhere between 20% less and 50% less. One state even approaches 70% less. And it all has to do with the fact that they have a better definition. They have a clearer definition of what an injury is, and that's principal cause. They simply say it must be related to the job being performed at the time of the alleged injury. That's a big deal when you're talking about 20 to 50, even 70% difference, less cost. That's a huge difference to business.
And so when, I mean, there's two keys here. One is it seems like, clearly defining what it is we want workman's comp to accomplish, and that is, we think it should be taking care of injuries on the job.
Right.
Right. And so if you don't have a tight definition, if you don't have a clear objective, you're going to end up with kind of the mess that we have now.
Well, what you end up with is potentially, and this doesn't happen all the time, but you have somebody that hurts himself playing softball on Sunday, comes in on Monday, and if he's not quite honest with the company, he can file a workers' compensation injury, and that could be compensable in Illinois. Here's the point, Jim, that we need to really think about. Do we want workers' compensation in Illinois to be real compensation for an injured employee, or do we want it to be a benefit? And I don't think any of us want it to be a benefit. We want to just take care of injured employees.
And I think the key for the general public to understand is, if we continue to put our businesses at this competitive disadvantage, we're going to lose opportunities not only for the kids coming through and graduating schools now, but for other people that are looking for employment. You cannot be pro-job and yet enact policies that work against job creators.
Well, that's exactly right. There's not a business, whether it's large or small, in the state of Illinois, who is in business to lose money. Now, you can have a bad year here and a bad year there, but when workers' compensation is so disproportionate in this state compared to others, and businesses suffer on the margins and don't make money year after year after year because of workers' compensation and related insurance costs, that's not going to incentivize anyone to stay here or come here.
Now, as a freshman coming in, it's unusual sometimes for people to take on such big issues. But your experience and your background, you're not your average freshman, so to speak. And I mean that in a great way.
That's kind of you.
But you've also done something unique in that you have worked with Speaker Madigan on a resolution to address workers' compensation.
True. The situation down at the Menard Correctional Facility, which was brought to light through the Belleville News-Democrat and their investigative reporting, really piqued my curiosity. And the more they wrote, the more I became curious. And so I sponsored 2 House resolutions. One which specifically dealt with Menard and other correctional facilities, where I called for an open forensic audit of that system in those correctional facilities. Following that, Speaker Madigan's office contacted me, said that they felt like this was an issue that indeed needed some work, needed an investigation, asked if I would join him on a resolution to push this matter forward, and quite frankly, I was delighted to do that.
Sure, and I think that's the key. That I mean, if we're going to work our way out of some of the challenges we face, it's going to take Republicans and Democrats, when we see a problem that we know is there, to come together. And the fact that the Speaker reached out to you shows me that one, you know what you're talking about and you had a pretty good resolution, and two, perhaps there's a new willingness to work together to get to where we need to be. And I think that's what the people expect, and that's what the people deserve, and I commend both of you for taking a leadership role for us on this.
Well, I appreciate that.
Well, it'll be an interesting year, and hopefully with some of the stuff that you've done and others, that we can actually make a change and earn our pay and earn our keep here.
I hope so.
Thanks, Dwight.